started in 2012 a spray that you spray on your football or soccer goalkeeping gloves to make them grippy. So we really doubled down on our social media because our community is pretty defined. They're called goalkeepers. Have to be hugely consistent. So there's no rocket science. There's no magic formula that took us to these big numbers that we've got. There's 1.3 million followers. I'm on TikTok. It's something like 71 million views. So we had a really clear TikTok strategy.
Hello and welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. Every week, we interview some of the best e-commerce founders and dive deep into their key growth drivers, uncovering actionable insights that you can implement in your business. But before we jump into today's conversation, a quick thank you to our friends at Saral. Most brands get influencer marketing wrong. They think paying a creator for a single post will spark a sales spike. That simply doesn't work. Successful brands like Graza, Obvi, and Hexclad are forging genuine partnerships. And that's where Saral comes in. It's your go-to platform for partnering with the right influencers, tracking results, and managing everything in one place. Book a demo at getsaral.com/demo. Mention us and get an extended free trial exclusive for our listeners. Hey Paul, welcome to the DTC Daily Podcast. How are you doing today?
Thanks, Kashal. Yeah, really good. Yeah, it's been a good start to the year. So yeah, feeling good this morning. Thank you.
Your story is the perfect example of the classic saying, don't be a jack of all, but a master of one. But before we dive into that, could you tell our audience a little bit more about your business?
So we're Glove Glu. You can see behind me, so I'm sat in the office actually. So we started in 2012 and our hero product is a spray that you spray on your football or soccer goalkeeping gloves to make them grippy. And it was an idea that came to me, as I say, actually in 2011. It took us nearly 18 months to get to market. So 2012, since then, and it was very much a side hustle, if you like, for a number of years. I had other business interests. I've been in sporting goods for 30 years. In 2020, took the decision to go absolutely full-time on the Glove Glu business. And since then, in particular, we've grown it into a global brand. We have distribution and retail partnerships in over 55 countries around the world. And we now sell one Glove Glu product every 150 seconds around the world. So yeah, really has scaled from literally sitting around the kitchen table, my wife and I pouring a white sticky liquid into bottles to now, which used to maybe take us an hour to do 60 bottles. And now we push out over 600 bottles an hour with a 12-hour shift.
Reflecting on your journey, what has been the single most impactful thing that moved the needle for Glove Glu and took it from being just another product to a global success story?
Number of milestones along the way. I think certainly one of the defining moments, and it's strange looking back. So I mentioned I went full-time in 2020. Well, we all know what happened in 2020. So in January 2020, off we went full-time. I divested all my other business interests, and the strategy was pretty much we had two or three products, and the strategy was to take this grippy spray that we had and attack other glove-wearing sports around the world. Think baseball, American football, hockey, etc., etc. By March 2020, I was sat actually in this office by myself. Everything was it was in lockdown, and sales were closing down and opening up as markets around the world closed and opened and went into lockdown and came back out. And I sat and challenged that business plan, the business plan being to go multi-sport. And it was a simple decision in the end because we already had an existing customer base. We've been trading then for 8 years. I had some customers that were buying, maybe they were buying 5 products from me. And the simple thought process was, okay, if I spend this time during lockdown really drilling into creating a load of new goalkeeper products, maybe that customer who buys from me somewhere in the world who already buys my 5 goalkeeping products, maybe if I launch another 10, maybe he buys another 5. So I double my business with him. Option B is I go and take a grippy spray to the baseball market, and maybe, if I'm lucky, the guy buys one product. So it's a simple, in the end, it sounds really simple, but it was, okay, the low fruit is to go as deep into that football goalkeeping niche as we can and introduce a wider product range to try and grow the business with the existing customers that we had, rather than almost starting from scratch and going back into, as I say, these other glove wearing sports. So that was definitely a pivotal moment. 2020, during lockdown, sat in this office. The other very quick one on that is actually we had the opportunity to get some government help during lockdown. So I was able to access some funds, bounce back loan, local grants that actually I wouldn't have been able to access if we hadn't have been in COVID. So did two things. One, made me think about the business plan, and two, actually gave me a little bit of extra cash to then go out and be ready to launch these products as we came out of lockdown.
So once you decided to solely focus on the football goalkeeping market, what specific actions did you take to capture and grow your presence within this niche?
Classic category king play, really. So first and foremost, to make sure that we were creating relevant products in the category, and that really at that stage sat under three things: products to make your gloves grippy, products to stop your gloves smelling, and products to keep your gloves clean. All issues that any goalkeeper around the world has, and therefore it's all about problem solving. So that was first and foremost, made sure that we had the products that would solve those problems. Secondly, then it's really all about community. It's really all about making sure that we connect with that community, because the best way to do that is social media. So we really doubled down on our social media efforts to make sure that we were able to talk to that community. I guess we're quite lucky in that respect because our community is pretty defined. They're called goalkeepers. So those two strategies were the way to really allow us to penetrate the market.
The one thing I noticed is that you've gotten a lot of tagged UGC on Instagram. How have you used social media to tap into this niche and establish a strong presence for your brand?
Yeah, sure. In fact, Instagram's our smallest audience. So as you say, 75 approaching 80,000 on Instagram. TikTok, we have an audience approaching 900,000, and YouTube is 215,000. Again, we're quite lucky. Early doors, bear in mind we're pioneers. We were bringing something totally new to the marketplace. So it was very easy to push that out to influencers. And of course, they're going, hey, what is this grip spray? Does it work? I've never heard of it. Is it? So we got a lot of reviews early doors on YouTube. Then as social media, as those platforms we just talked about, started to mature, again, we got a lot of influencers and a lot of members of the public generally posting about this new thing. Does it work? Doesn't it work? Whatever. So sampling was very important, getting sampling out. But also, again, at that point, so you think between 2012 and 2020, when we really pushed the accelerator, we'd organically grown in various markets. I mentioned I'd had 30 years experience in sporting goods. That was working with other brands. That meant I had a lot of contacts around the world. And that meant even by that stage, we had already had some global distributors in place. So you were starting to see consumers all over the world talking about and posting about Glove Glue. So that gave us a much wider base than we may have got if we'd have just been focused initially domestically on let's say a B2C play. It was very much a B2B play in those early days.
Could you now break down how your engagement strategies vary across these three platforms, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube? Also, what unique approaches do you use to optimize for engagement on each of these platforms, and how are you tailoring your content to the distinct audiences that are present on these platforms?
I think there's a simple mantra that we have in social media, in our social media strategy, and that's you have to be consistent, persistent, patient. There are no shortcuts in social media. So, you see a lot of people playing at it, and maybe they post something on a Monday and it doesn't really hit, or maybe they do 3 or 4 in a row and they don't really hit, and then they get a bit fed up and maybe they come back to it. You have to be hugely consistent. And I think if you that was our play. So there's no rocket science. There's no magic formula that took us to these big numbers that we've got, this 1.2, 1.3 million followers. It was just all about making content that we felt first and foremost supported the brand, and secondly was engaging. So if you look at our TikTok strategy, we had two core things. One was listen to that grip, and one was will it stick. Listen to that grip is literally a pair of goalkeeping gloves, spray. Oh, look, you can hear the grip. So that ASMR, people love that, love the sounds and just everything in and around that. And then the second fun one was will it stick? Again, goalkeeper glove, spray. Will it stick to anything? I don't know, a house, a car, an apple, an orange, some coins, silly things. That, of course, creates engagement where half the audience think you're serious and they're going, well, of course it doesn't stick to a car. And half the audience get the humor in the fact that, oh, okay, I get it. They're playing on this grippy, sticky thing. And we just found our lane, really. So we found that quite early. We were quite lucky, but I think we continue to experiment and push and change and evaluate. So again, I think that's the important play in social. As I said, consistent, persistent, patient, but also review. So anything that gets close, once we'd found something that was working, it was a question of pushing the boundaries of that and different iterations to see if we can continue to maintain the momentum, but fundamentally keeping what the essence of those posts were all about. So yeah, as I said, there's no magic formula, there's no shortcut, but we were lucky that maybe we hit on some sort of formula really quite early in that process.
You've obviously experimented a lot across these three platforms. So how has your strategy evolved, particularly with these platforms constantly introducing, newer formats?
It's just made me think it's interesting. We're talking today on a day that TikTok has been banned in the US. We'll see how that pans out. But yeah, so Instagram's the platform we've been on the longest, and it's always for us been a branding exercise, trying to make sure that the grid has some nice brand feel imagery that puts us at a certain level in the marketplace. I'll come on to that. Our strategy has changed a little bit in the last 12 months, but it was always a brand play. It was always like, okay, we want the Instagram grid in particular to look really nice and look really brand, and like, okay, this is a classy brand. TikTok was a completely different strategy. So the TikTok strategy we started 4 years ago. Nobody was really talking about TikTok. It was pretty early days, and that was just about fun. That was just about humor. That was just about being silly. And actually, it came from my son. My son was 15, 16 at the time, and said, "Dad, really, Glove Glu should be on TikTok." Well, I was 50 at the time, going, "What are you talking about? I don't understand. What is this TikTok? It wasn't appealing to me." Arguably at the time it was thought of as a kids platform, and it's still very much dancing and singing, and no businesses were talking about it. But he knew it very well. Like, he was that target audience. So he was on it a lot. He was understanding the trends. So the strategy then was, okay, listen, let's you and I, so father and son, on a Saturday morning, let's film an hour's worth of content. Tell me what we need to film. Tell me what you think is going to resonate with the audience, and you can post it through the week. And that worked really, really well, because I guess fundamentally we had exactly the target consumer. We had them on the team, i.e. it was my 16-year-old son at the time. And that was, of course, that was short form reels. Well, YouTube didn't really have short form at that time, and Instagram was playing with it. So very, very quickly, the short form reels overtook anything we were doing in Instagram, and we got a lot of resonated greatly. I think our most viral post at that time on TikTok hit something like 71 million views. So we had a really clear TikTok strategy. We continued with this Instagram brand approach because Reels didn't really come into play. But in the last 18 months, Reels have come into play in TikTok. So we've taken into Instagram. So we've taken our TikTok Reel strategy and implemented it in Instagram. And we've done the same with YouTube Shorts. And YouTube Shorts was the most interesting one, because our YouTube subscriber base was tiny, 4,000 or 5,000. And we basically said, okay, I wonder if the TikTok strategy will work on YouTube. So why don't we just do something very similar, not the same content, but the same sort of voice, the same sort of this will it stick, listen to that grip. And it did. And within 3-4 months, we've gone from 0 to 100,000 and we continue to kick on with YouTube. So it's the real strategy for us works on works on TikTok and YouTube. We haven't yet really found it penetrating in the same way on Instagram. So our biggest shorts on YouTube, I think, has hit nearly 100 million views is our biggest one on YouTube, 71 million on TikTok. We're nothing like that in the Instagram reel. So it's interesting how that short form content doesn't necessarily play out in the same way across those 3 platforms. Circling back to, TikTok, at the moment being banned in the US, it looks like the go-to platform for all those US TikTokers is Instagram. So it might be that Instagram reel activity changes and becomes more, if you like, TikTok-like, because it might be that it's forced to go in that direction by particularly the US TikTokers. So we'll see how that landscape pans out.
Now, with the possibility of a TikTok ban in the US, do you have any strategies in place to drive some of the traffic from TikTok onto other platforms like Instagram or YouTube?
There aren't. Funnily enough, I was actually thinking about that this morning. There aren't at the moment. 25% of our audience on TikTok is US, so that's over 200,000 followers that we might, well, at this moment in time, we're going to lose. I don't know how it's going to play out. Will they naturally come and find us on Instagram if we don't do anything about it? Probably not. Do we need to do something about it? Certainly we do. Have we got a strategy in place? No. Is that a mistake? Possibly. Did I ever believe actually that the TikTok ban in the US was going to go through? No, I didn't. And I think we're like a lot of businesses that went, no, there's no way that can happen. There's a lot of individuals and a lot of businesses that are generating substantial revenues from TikTok. Let's see how it pans out. I think Mr. Beast is throwing his hat in the ring. There's lots of people throwing their hat in the ring. We'll see what Trump does.
So far, you've stressed a lot on the importance of engaging with your audience through content creation. What advice would you give some of the founders that are watching this podcast who get extremely overwhelmed by the demands of content creation and also struggle to keep up with consistent posting?
Do you know the biggest excuse I hear from founders is, I don't have time. Well, I don't believe that, because it doesn't take a huge amount of time. And you can have 2 approaches. Either it becomes your daily routine. So the first thing that you do is you film or create a 5-minute, you spend 5-10 minutes creating some content. It can be on your phone. You can easily use something like CapCut to edit it. You don't need to be some whizzy, video editor to create some compelling content. In fact, arguably, particularly on those TikTok platforms, the more real and genuine it is, the more the end consumer connects with that. So you can either, put it into your daily routine, just do it, or do as we used to do, put an hour aside and film all the content for the week, and then it's there. But either way is should be able to find a window, because fundamentally it's the best way to connect to your audience, and it's free. So the excuse that you can't find time to do it, I don't see that's a valid excuse. It's a bit like saying I don't have time to talk to my customers. Well, without customers, you don't have a business. So if you're not finding the time to talk to them, there's a disconnect there. There's something wrong.
Could you break down some of your revenue streams and how your marketing efforts, including your social media, have impacted sales?
Yeah, so we have 3 revenue streams basically. almost third. So a third through our B2B, our global B2B business. So that is traditional B2B, shipping in bulk, predominantly to distributors in local markets who then sell on to sports stores or direct to particularly the big sports chains. So that might be Dick's Sporting Goods in the US, for example, who are the world's biggest sports retailer, or it might be Sports Direct here, or it might be through a distributor that sells into XXL in Scandinavia, or it might be Rebel Sports in Australia. So that's about a third of the business. A third of the business then is Amazon marketplaces, and that's US, Europe, UK, and then a third of the business is e-com, direct to consumer. That third channel is the channel where we can directly connect our social media activity. Within that, if you break it down, we are playing with TikTok shops, and we've played with it over the last couple of years. We haven't got the formula right yet. One of the mistakes that we made, and we did an advertising test in Q4 last year, was to take people off the TikTok platform and push them to our gloveglu.com. It's a mistake. You need to keep people in-app on TikTok Shop. So as part of our B2B strategy, we're doubling down on TikTok and pushing them to TikTok shops. So we'll see how that pans out. Gloveglu.com is on a Shopify platform. So there's a lot of plugins that we have in and around that to engage with the local community and push people from the other channels. We'll see how YouTube and Instagram evolve in terms of this shopping play. But clearly, any links, any call to action that we have within all of our social media channels come back to gloveglu.com as opposed to being pushed to any of our partner retailers. So those are our three channels. In terms of paid ads, we put money into Meta. So we have paid ads, particularly during Q4. We're very giftable. You can see behind me a lot of these products, very giftable, very very gifting season, if you like. So that's Meta and Facebook ads. We have Google ads. So our digital ad strategy in social is based around those. We clearly have a digital ad strategy for Amazon. The element of social media reach and the impact on B2B is quite interesting. What's happened over the last couple of years is because of our social media reach, we've found we've grown certain pockets in certain countries. So it might be, as an example, a retailer in Greece has seen us on social media, reaches out, and we supply this sports shop in Greece. Then suddenly 2 or 3 or 4 other sports shops in Greece reach out because they see their competitor buying Glove Glue and they see the opportunity and so on and so forth. And that's happened 3, 4, 5, 6 times around different pockets in the world where suddenly there's a random connection from Peru. We're not targeting Peru. We're not spending any ad spend. We're not doing anything. But clearly a retailer in Peru has seen our product, connects with us. We start shipping to Peru. And suddenly then within a short space of time, we've got 3, 4, 5 B2B customers in Peru. So that's a really interesting one that everybody thinks, social media, it's all about pushing B2C, B2C, B2C. But for us, it's opened up some B2B opportunities. It's a bit anecdotal, but as far as I can see, the only way that those consumers in Peru or Bolivia can see our product is through social media. So therefore, it must be that they're connecting through social from a B2B perspective.
So how does your paid media strategy work? Are you leveraging content that performs well on social media, or do you create exclusive content specifically for your ads?
Yeah, combination of the above, actually. So low fruit you would expect would be to take trending shorts, let's say, trending reels, and push those as ads. In actual fact, they haven't been the most successful ads that we have run on. Let's take Meta as an example. Some of the more traditional carousel ads, static image ads, have performed better than taking a short form content. So again, ads are the same as a social, it's a constant review, post or review, iterate, change, post. It's a constant A/B testing. You'll find something might resonate and work and get us a very strong ROAS for 3, 4, 5, 6 days, and then suddenly the ROAS drops and something changes, and we need to. So it's not a question of going, hey, I think that ad's going to work, posting it out there and letting it run. Typically, if you do so, then the ROAS drops, the return on the ad spend drops. So the consumer wants to see new and different and engaging content on a regular basis. They want to see the same in ads. So again, it's a bit of an art, and if you hit the right vein in ads, it's exactly the same strategy. Okay, try and maintain whatever the essence of that ad, but keep pushing the edges to see maybe you can sneak a bit more, maybe you can get a slightly better ROAS. And of course, sometimes you can, and it will go, and then you go again, and you take that, and you iterate, and you go again. And if you don't, fine, you park that strategy. But without A/B testing, without constantly being on it, you're going to potentially spend a lot of money and go, this has failed. Well, it's failed because you haven't reviewed, you haven't challenged, you haven't looked at it. Very, very easy. And we did this long time ago to sort of, it'll pop up in your feed. Oh, spend some money on Facebook ads or whatever it is. And you spend some money, but you don't really know what you're doing. You don't really know what the audience is. You're not challenging it. You're not seeing it. You're not profiling the audience. Meta loves that. You're the best customer that you're ever going to have because you're just going to be spending money. You're never going to get a return.
And how do you go about optimizing your approach and managing your paid ads during both peak and slower periods?
So we particularly during Q4, we'll review them probably twice a week. So, as I said, quite often you see early success for 3-4 days. By the 5th or 6th day, then you need to change, you need to iterate, you need to take down, you need to introduce a new one, and so on and so forth. So changing quite regularly is quite important, particularly during that crazy period for us when, sales in that period for us, B2C sales are 10x what they are this time of year. We're very slow this time of year. So A, we don't really do a huge amount of advertising, and B, if we do, we probably let them run a little bit longer because you don't see that huge drop off. So the curve is a lot softer. So it tends to do that as opposed to do that.
As a leader in your category, how do you ensure continued innovation and staying ahead of emerging competition? Because I'm guessing there will be a lot of knockoffs that are creeping up. So what strategies do you use to retain and keep your customers engaged with your brand over time?
Yeah, I think it's really important. We are category king. What does that mean? It means that we've introduced in our instance, a product to the world that didn't exist before. Think Uber, Amazon, Apple. They did the same thing. They're category kings. One of the challenges is, as a category king, is you get category commoners coming into your circle. They want to take your crown. So how do you keep your crown? There's a couple of strategies that we implement. First and foremost, if we're category king, we've got to continue to be the innovators. We've got to continue to be the ones that are pushing and challenging the category that we've created. So we have a really big and extensive new product development program that we've already got some great products that are launching in 2025. We've already got some great products that we will launch in 2026. So it's really important that as competitors come in, the category commoners come into our space, that we innovate. So first and foremost, we've got to make sure that in terms of retention, we're innovating so that customers are excited. Secondly, then in terms of retention internally, what can we do? Well, the easiest way is from a B2C perspective is to make sure if we've got people that are coming in and buying from us directly, we need to keep those customers warm and cozy and happy with everything we're doing. So we use Klaviyo as our email marketing. So it's all about the marketing flow, the funnels, the regular emails to that customer. So you've made a purchase from us, then there's follow-up emails. The reality with our product is you're probably going to get through 2 or 3 bottles of our core product a year. So, after 3-4 months, you're going to get an email. How are you getting? Are your gloves, have you run out of product? So there's that constant dialogue to make sure that the consumer doesn't forget us. Then there's an educational play. We have a responsibility within our space to educate the consumer. So if we can educate you to make sure that your gloves last longer and perform better, that's a benefit for you. And you can do that by, washing them and looking after them, and some little tips and some plans and some ploys and everything, and using our products. So education is key for us. You could be spending £150, $200 on a pair of goalkeeping gloves. So you want to make them last. So that's an important retention strategy for us also. We have a VIP loyalty program, again, within our e-com business. So again, that's points for, you get rewards for your birthday, but you get rewards if you post about us on social media. Classic loyalty plays to keep people in the business. We've launched and are revamping, but our subscription side, which we can do with subscriptions within Amazon, and we can do subscriptions within GloveGlu.com. So that's an interesting one that we're just playing with at the moment. As I said, our products are fundamentally consumables. So what does that mean? It means you're going to get through the product and you need to replace it, and you're going to reuse it. So that subscription model, we think, has got, an interest. There's an interesting opportunity for us. We haven't quite got it right yet, but could be a key part of our retention strategy. So number of approaches, from first of all from brand level and new product level, right down to that granular, that micro touch point with our loyal customers.
So I know you mentioned sticking to the soccer niche and continuing to dominate it as category king, but do you think we would ever see Glove Glu entering other sports?
Yeah, here's the great news, is the opportunity to move into other sports doesn't go away. It's always there. It doesn't go away. That being said, we are still scratching the surface in the global soccer category. The category is growing. Why? Because suddenly the other half of the population of the world, i.e. women, girls, are now coming into football, coming into global soccer. So our audience size is growing because suddenly there's way more players coming into the global game. So you look at how women's soccer has evolved. In the UK in the last 2 or 3 years, US has always been strong, Scandinavia is strong, Australia is strong. There are lots and lots of markets around the world where as I say, more players coming into the sport. So it's one of the hardest things about being an entrepreneur is that your brain is constantly looking over here for new things, new opportunities. To stay in lane is quite difficult. But I think, we continue to see aggressive growth at 40+% year on year for the last 3 years. This year is going to be the same. Our financial year ends in March. We're going to be in that same vein, 30-40% growth. So why would we look outside of our core business strategy and sport at the moment if we can continue to drive growth of that ilk? And where's that growth going to come from? It's deeper and wider penetration still of the global retailer base, of our Amazon channel and of our B2C channel. So yeah, will you see Glove Glu ultimately at some stage in other sports? I'm sure you will. When will that happen? I don't know.
Lastly, what advice would you give some of the founders that are watching this podcast?
I think be brave. I think be focused, be laser focused on what you want to achieve. It's a rocky road. You're going to have your ups and your downs. I talked about being persistent, consistent, patient within your social media strategy. The same rules actually apply in building your business. Just that consistency of driving driving it forward. And, if you can see obstacles as challenges and problems to be solved, then I think that's I get my greatest pleasure from solving a problem, which effectively is, some people might say they're obstacles. It's problem. At the end of the day, it's problem solving. You can always get over those challenges. You can always find a way. Often people just get overawed by the challenge, the obstacle that's in front of them, and don't think laterally to find a way. And often it's that obstacle in front of them that prevents them really driving the business forward in the way that they want to drive it forward. And in a number of circumstances, it's that obstacle that kills the business in the end. But there are always ways round. There are always clever ways round. There are always ways, and we just find ourselves constantly knocking those obstacles over as we continue to grow the business. So, be brave, be committed, be focused. It's not easy, but if you're in the privileged position to own your own business, and it is a privileged position, then go with it, enjoy it, have fun.
Paul, thank you so much for doing this. It's been a wonderful episode. You've shared some amazing insights with our audience. Thank you so much for doing this again.
Thanks very much. Thoroughly enjoyed it. If any of your listeners, want to learn more about, the Glove Glu journey and kind of my personal journey and behind the brand, then, of course, visit gloveglu.com or, search me out on LinkedIn. I'm Paul Sherratt. You'll find me under Paul Sherratt or Glove Glu. But, any insights, happy to answer any deeper questions there. And I wish all the listeners good luck in whatever business venture they're currently involved in or they may be involved in the future. And as I say, if I can be of any assistance, and feel free to reach out.